Okay, so now we're going to demonstrate the application of a stirrup. What we're starting with is a stockinette, web-rilled, and already posterior short-legged lower extremity. So if a doctor was to order just the stirrup, you would disregard this short leg posterior, but most of the time you're going to apply the short leg posterior first and then apply a stirrup for extra lateral and medial support of the leg. So, like I said, we're already padded. We've got our 3 layers, our stockinette, and our short leg posterior has already been captured in the stockinette. But what I like to do is fold the bottom of this down. We don't need to play with the toes because the stirrup isn't going to extend this far out toward the toes. But I do like this stockinette to be rolled down so that when I put the stirrup on, we can roll it back up to capture the edges. So I've pre-measured our stirrup material. As always, the thicker padded side goes toward the skin. I've also already finished the edges, so we rolled these edges into themselves and then crimped the very ends, leaving about a centimeter or so border so that the patient doesn't end up with fiberglass splinters. So we're going to lay this over, and what we want to capture is basically the arch of the foot here. And when we bring this down, we want it to line up pretty closely with the end of that short leg posterior. And line it up here on both sides, and then we can roll that stockinette up around the bottom to capture those edges. So if you're putting these on right next to each other, chances are one of them isn't going to be cured all the way. Your short leg posterior won't be all the way cured. And so you'll kind of be able to shape as you go, making sure to keep that Achilles pressure, a little flattening over the major muscles of the calf. And then we want this stirrup to, we don't want the splinting material necessarily to overlap, but our paddings here can be touching between the short leg posterior and the stirrup. So once that's on, we need to work pretty quickly to get this secured, again starting distally. That way it doesn't set up with an awkward position, since we do kind of have some material hanging off the front here, which will eventually, after the bias, be formed to the patient's leg. So get that bias on. And same as before, you want to make sure that you cup the heel and press down without pinching the material, just to give yourself some nice rounded edges on the heel instead of big dog ears or flaps that can collect debris and don't look as nice. Okay, so as we're finishing wrapping up our splint down here, just a couple of quick points. As soon as we secure this tape, we're going to want to double check that the heel is still at that 90 degrees that we started with, and that we haven't created any major points of pressure since we've overlapped 2 splints. Also, with this stirrup, I didn't wet the material. Often on adults who are cooperative, I won't wet either material because the moisture in the air will allow this splint material to set up. But with older adults, patients who are confused, or kids, I highly recommend that you do get the interior of the splint material wet before you apply it, because that expedites the curing of the fiberglass. It is a chemical reaction that's happening that does require some source of moisture, so adding that moisture will absolutely speed up the process. So here's the completed short leg posterior with a stirrup splint underneath. Like I said, most of the stirrups are ordered with the short leg posterior, but if they were to order it without, you could just throw that stirrup on without the underlying splint, and then you would definitely want to get your splint material wet because you'll not need as much time to set it up.